What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Before we start this video, huge appreciation to you guys for getting that YouTuber video to 300 likes and over 300 comments, all of which are supportive. The only hate comments I saw was literally 5, and that is shocking. I was expecting like complete chaos and like a billion dislikes and everyone hating on me, but turns out you guys kind of support the smaller guys and aren't completely loyal to the 10 million subscriber guys, so that made me feel really awesome. Anyhow, I wanted to throw out a special video, another vid that kind of took a decent amount of research, and this one's about the biggest nerfs in Clash of Clans. So of course we have to start with not a troop, not a building, but the shields themselves. Play Clash of Clans made a video a little bit back, and it was a throwback video to the beginning of Clash of Clans. He's been playing for longer than anyone else, and he's been making videos about it longer than anyone else, at least the game itself. And I decided to watch that video and I was like, whoa, that's what Clash of Clans used to be like, that's pretty cool. So basically, back in the day, shields didn't have cooldowns, so you know what the big guys would do? So all these guys right here, who are now the top people in the world, they would basically just keep buying shields after shields after shields, and this went on for months. So basically, this guy right here could jump to the top, number 1 or number 2, and no one could go past him because he simply just kept a shield on and on. He'd just keep purchasing one and purchasing one and purchasing one. So what did they do? They decided to make the cooldown, which means you can't buy a shield after having a shield for a certain amount of time, and that basically fixed that problem. But that was interesting. Can you imagine if the system wasn't changed and to this day you could just keep buying shields over and over? Your base would never get raided. It would basically be like being active or using some hack or something along those lines. So that was interesting. Then, what's even more interesting is dragons. This is probably the most famous, well, I'd say competition with the P.E.K.K.A, but probably the most famous troop in Clash of Clans is the dragon. Every single time that some noob unlocks the dragon, they're like, oh my gosh, this thing is gonna destroy and rain havoc among every single little base that I can find, and then they find out that dragons aren't exactly that OP. But believe it or not, at one point they really were. Dragons were nerfed 3 times. Not to mention the fact that additional air defenses were added to nerf them, and then Infernos came to make sure that multiple dragons couldn't destroy Town Hall 10s and all that. And finally, they ended up costing a lot more after another update, and it now takes a lot longer to train dragons. So when they first came out, there were these things that took barely any time to train, they were super cheap, there wasn't enough air defenses to block them, and they were so OP that they could just, rain havoc among every single base. It took them 3 entire updates over the course of some period to get rid of dragons' extreme OPness. To this day, dragons are still good at Town Hall 7 and 8, and they're decent at Town Hall 9, but you don't see Town Hall 9 trying to 2-star with all drags. It just doesn't work. So yeah, dragons are number 2 on the list. Number 3 on the list is interesting. It's the Expo itself. Now, the Expo these days doesn't get as much love as it did back in the day. People who upgrade to Town Hall 9 are still excited. They're like, oh my gosh, I just got the Expo, and they love this cool thing. I don't exactly know why I'm on B.A.B.Y.I.O.N's base. Let me just switch that over real quick, because it doesn't make sense to talk about Expos without having them. And there he is, Charlie the Expo. He is doing well. Actually, he's not. I need to refill him real quick. There you go, he's now full and completely happy, nodding his head back and forth, searching for those opponents. Now, what's interesting about Expos is that their range was decreased to 11 tiles in one update, and basically when they had more than 11 to 12, I think it was like 13 tiles, when they had that much range, they would take out archers and barbarians, and trying to barch a Town Hall 9 back then would be quite literally impossible. It's still pretty tough, but with these OP Expos, something had to happen. Not to mention air troops were being taken down and all that stuff as well. Also, their ammo capacity was decreased by 25%. So of course they lasted a decent amount of time, but you had to keep refilling them. I think that kind of has to do with trying to keep people stay on and wanting to refill their Expos, because the Expos are kind of worth it and yet kind of not. So if people came back, raided, and their Expos were completely full, then they didn't have to spend any elixir. Clash of Clans didn't want that. They want people to spend their elixir and gold and to raid and do all that stuff. So they did that. And finally, the loading cost displayed in the info screen. So this was kind of a minor type of little update, but people were originally kind of ticked off that they kind of didn't know exactly how much they were spending to refill their expos, or how much exactly it needed to be refilled, and people were like, wait a minute, how much elixir is randomly disappearing on my expos? Is it even worth it? And so that was increased in an update. Believe it or not, that wasn't originally in it, but expos were kind of OP and kind of not. To this day, they're still a pretty decent thing, but I never fill mine up. I never find them really worth it, but other people think they're amazing when it comes to defending in war. Alright, so number 4 on the list is, of course, the Inferno. The Inferno was amazing. Like, this took Town Hall 10 to the next level. And of course, basically, you can set it to multiple, or you can set it to single target. Single target Infernos weren't originally like nerfed, but multiple target was. And then later, I think in the last 2 or 3 updates, single target Infernos were also completely nerfed, and it has to do kind of with Hogs, and it has to do with some of the Babylonian and all those troops. So yeah, that's Infernos for you guys. We all know how OP Infernos are. There's no point in even adding that to the video. It's just obvious. But one random thing, number 5 on the list, that people kind of overlook that was super OP, but people don't realize it, is the hero luring technique. They used to be like that. So if I were to find my heroes wherever they're chilling right now, there's my queen. Back in the day, if you were to lure out clan castle troops, you could basically send in, you could send in a, I don't know, archer over there somewhere, and the heroes would be lured out simply by placing an archer. You guys have been playing long enough to remember this actually happening. And Supercell didn't realize this is not the greatest idea until later, where they changed it to the heroes actually having a certain amount of range instead of the entire base, because heroes were completely pointless. All of a sudden, a person could put like a balloon over here and then lure out my barbarian king over here and just take him out with a handful of archers. That's just pointless. There's no point in heroes being alive. But now, if the archer queen is at the center of the base, she kind of acts like a building. She could take out the balloons, she could rain havoc among some wizards that are trying to chill inside of their town hall, or something along those lines, and it just makes life a little bit easier for the person defending and a little bit harder for the person trying to attack your base. But everything balances out, so it turns out that was actually a really good idea. The Witch is next on the list. This is something I don't know a lot about. Actually, a lot of these I don't know a lot about. It's kind of because I haven't been playing as long as play Clash of Clans. But the Witch originally was extremely OP. She got nerfed, I believe once, and really, really badly. At one point, the Witch was so OP that trying to go wee-wee was just easy. The Witches would just distract the Infernos like crazy, or distract the Expos, and it was easy to get a 2-star, and 3 stars were happening left and right. But witches were nerfed, and they aren't as popular as they were at one point. People still do use go wee wee, and people do use people still do use witches to basically take out all the clan castle troops and that, but you don't see them completely destroying bases on their own or anything along those lines. I believe the skeletons weren't exactly nerfed, but it was the witch herself, the blast that she shoots out of her hand. That's the thing that was nerfed, along with like her spawn time and a handful of other things. I can't go too exact since I have no clue. I don't know where Clash of Clans keeps the records of like every update that ever happened, so this is kind of off the top of my head. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on any exact statistics in the comment section below. Alright, moving on. This one is something that we all know a lot about. Hog Riders, Hog Rider. And let me go find our friends real quick. Hogs are in here somewhere. Maybe I should train some up. Oh, wait, what? Ah, perfect. We found someone called Hog Knight. How perfect is that? I guess we should just go to his base instead. And there you go. This was not planned, by the way. I just accidentally clicked that. So yeah. Oh, and he has hogs. How perfect is that? Alright guys, so hogs were very OP at one point. Nowadays, you only see Town Hall 8s, and if you're good, people using hogs, not completely only using hogs, people figured out that that's not a good idea, and giant bombs can completely destroy hogs and blow. We're going to get to that in a second. Anyhow, these days, people who are Town Hall 8s and 7s who know how to use hogs will use them with other combinations of troops to hopefully attain a 3-star. Does that always work? Not exactly. Sometimes. I've seen the worst things happen with hogs in my clan, and I can only imagine what you guys have seen with hogs in your clans. Feel free to leave your stories below. Here's my stories. One time, I saw hog riders take everything around the base. I'm not kidding. They literally went from right to left, destroyed everything in the base, and then they went right to left again, destroyed all the normal things like elixirs and that, and then they came to the town hall, and basically this guy was trolling. There was like 4 giant bombs here. Every single hog got taken out in war, and the guy ended up with a 99%, and he didn't take out the town hall. That was like, that moment right there, we were like, alright, we're done with this war, screw this, we're trolling or something. Another time, this basically happened, but opposite, even worse. So the person thought he had the placement down for the giant bombs. So in this base, I'm going to assume, well, his giant bombs are right here. So he thought he could actually lure in and get the giant bombs. But turns out there was a lot more giant bombs than he expected. So he took out, say, this one, but there was 2 right here and 1 right there. And his hogs decided to, he released them about right there. His hogs, instead of going the way that they originally went, decided to go this way, and he accidentally released every single one of his hogs, and every single one of them was taken out on the spot. And that's these days. Back in the day, that wouldn't happen. Giant bombs didn't affect hogs as much, and at one point, people were 3-star, and people were ranting on Twitter about how Town Hall 9s were getting destroyed 3-starred without any effort by simply using hogs, and same went for Town Hall 10s. So the Infernos got a little bit of boost, and as soon as that happened, basically the hogs were kinda useful. I mean, they were still a free spell, but at the same time, you didn't see Town Hall 9s 3-starring Town Hall 10s as often. That shouldn't be something that happens on a daily basis like it did a few months back when hogs were extremely OP. But everyone knows the stories about hogs. I thought I'd share mine. Feel free to share yours below. Alright guys, we got 2 more to go. This one isn't that big. Everyone knows about this since it was in a recent update. But Lava.Lunion, basically, the strategy itself basically got nerfed, since air defenses, and of course these guys right here are good old air sweepers, and not to mention that the lava pups themselves even got nerfed. And so lava hounds, when they originally came out, people were like, oh my gosh, these are going to be so OP, what are we going to do, we are completely screwed, this game is done. But that's not exactly what ended up happening, because about 2 days into the update, I think it was like a week or so, lava hounds got completely poofed. And it was fun while it lasted. People were really getting into the Lava.Lunion thing. But after that, the lava pups themselves were lava hounds. These things were just decreased in hit points. They didn't distract as much, and basically the lava hounds themselves didn't last as long. They're still good for Lava.Lunion. They're still good for luring out Clan Council troops. If you do that, totally not worth it. 30 spaces. If you do that, they're not bad. None of the troops are bad. They're balanced out in a sense. But as I said, they were OP for a little tiny amount of time, and everyone on YouTube went nuts trying to make every strategy and combination possible. I once saw lava hounds, 2 of the craziest raids that I saw. One was all lava hounds, didn't work very well, don't do it guys. Number 2 was B.A.B.Y.I.O.N, but with 6 lava hounds, like I think it was 6, something like 3 or 4 or 5, I don't know, something along those lines, and then just barbs and archers. The guy got 50% somehow, because the lava hounds distracted everything around the base. Apparently that's a thing. It's super expensive, but feel free to do it. Okay guys, we have to get to the last thing. Now, the elimination of B.A.B.Y.I.O.N is a video that I made a long time ago, and slowly but steadily Supercell kind of got ticked off that people were successfully barching to high leagues like champions, and what was high then, and of course Titans now, and that simply is not possible unless you're a master at barching. They basically made it so certain things, certain hit points were decreased here and there. Every update, they just, so people wouldn't get ticked off obviously, they just tweaked something just a little tiny bit just to make it so Barch was just a little tiny bit harder, and eventually Barch is now basically a completely farming strategy. Trying to push with Barch is expensive and a complete pain. It's better to look for town halls or snipe, or actually use Go Wipe or something along those lines. So what do? Well, remember our army camps bros? Well, they decided to, well, I think this had like 800 hit points or some nutcase amount of hit points at one point, and they spread these hit points around to everything. At the same time, I think they increased hit points on something. Oh wait, maybe it was builders huts, I'm not sure. They increased hit points on those, so surrounding your base would be a little bit tougher to barch. At the same time, everyone remembers that these guys right here, or girls, my bad, gender equality. So of course we got archers over here, and they basically got OP'd kinda. They shoot way faster now, and back in the day they'd just be casually sitting there launching their bows and just, you know, shooting some love darts here and there. But nowadays they're just bang 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 shooting away and trying to get your archers placed correctly and taking out things around the base while these are shooting at you. It's not exactly the easiest thing. Keep going to say these guys. Apologies, archers. But then again, I feel like we need some guy archers in here too, so Supercell, get on that. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed that video. If so, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe and share this video with other people, because it's kind of fun looking back at like the way Clash of Clans sort of blended together to completely make the nice smooth economy that we have nowadays, with just enough loot, just enough good strategies, just enough terrible strategies, and just enough good people and just enough gemmers and everything that Supercell barely needs to do anything. They just watch as we play and see how the game goes, occasionally implementing a handful of things that we say they should, like the new war balancing thing with the tiebreakers and all that. So yeah guys, thank you for watching. This is going to be me logging off.